You lose both Bryson Nesbitt and John Copenhaver from last year. Those were guys that were mainstays at the position for each of the last 2 years. You could go back even further than that with the impacts that were felt from them. And now you're turning to Jake Johnson, who is going to be the guy that is the lone scholarship holdover guy from last year's team. There are still a couple of guys that were walk-ons on last year's teams that are on scholarship now, but this is the only guy that is going to be a scholarship player that is going to carry over. And he played a little bit last year for Carolina at the end of the year. Didn't really do a whole lot. Was, used primarily as a blocker. Did not have many catches for Carolina last year, but back at Texas A&M, was a very impactful player as a sophomore, or as a redshirt freshman, when he caught 24 passes for 235 yards and 4 touchdowns. Carolina needs him to turn back the clock a little bit and become that type of player for Carolina this year, because they need someone to step up at that tight end spot. And the rest of the guys in this room are really guys that are coming from other schools where they didn't necessarily have even that type of production that we're seeing from a guy like Jake Johnson.
Yeah, the arrival of Bill Belichick feels like it's 1 year too late, just in terms of utilizing the tight ends. This is something that, from Phil Longo to Chip Lindsey, man, I begged for, I demanded, and I complained a lot about, because there was a lot of talent in that room that I thought they never got the full potential out of that, out of those guys. And now you're in a situation where both those guys are gone. You're going into a year where you've got yet another quarterback battle, and then you don't have a known commodity at that safety valve position in terms of production while wearing a UNC uniform. You know that Jake Johnson can be a productive player. You saw it at Texas A&M. Don't know what led to the lack of production, or just the lack of using him as a receiver last year. Did not make a whole lot of sense, and I think it's something where it does make it a lot harder to kind of project him moving forward. Just what kind of player is he? Is he going to be a guy that we could count to catch, anywhere from 30 to 35 passes, or Belichick, Freddie Kitchens? Are they going to use him primarily as a blocker? So I think this is a group, when you look at the question marks that exist at wide receiver. We're confident in the running back room's ability because we're big fans of Davian Goss. But I do think not knowing what the production from this position group looks like does make it hard to kind of decipher kind of what this Carolina offense can and will be. With that being said, I do think it'll be featured more. Just when you look at the way Belichick's offenses kind of molded there when he was in New England. Now, granted, he had a Hall of Famer and Rob Gronkowski to kind of highlight and utilize, but the back half of that New England dynasty, you saw the tight end position really become a bigger part of what the Patriots did offensively. And so I wonder how much of that will carry over into the college game and what he does with Freddie Kitchens. And we'll see if maybe they can find a way to, tap into some of the potential that exists in that room, because I don't think the room necessarily lacks for talent. We just haven't seen a lot of a production, whether it's in Chapel Hill or some of the transfers to other previous stops.
Yeah, I mean, with Jake Johnson, I think the weird thing about him was he played 202 snaps last year for Carolina. Only 44 of them were passing snaps. So it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that a guy that comes from Texas A&M, where he played 448 snaps and 248 of those were passing downs, it makes sense why he was so successful there and wasn't as successful here. I mean, he had 2 catches for 21 yards the whole season last year. And remember that he was a guy that was out there a pretty decent amount after the injury to Bryson Nesbitt. He had to take over. Carolina still wanted to run 2 tight end sets. Copenhaver was, of course, a guy that was getting the majority of the targets, but you felt like he would be a little bit more involved. They weren't even putting him out there on most of those passing downs. I think this year you're going to see it be a little bit different. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets where Carolina is going to be throwing the football. And that's good news for Jake Johnson. He's expected to be the starter anyway, so even if they're just running 1 tight end, it is what it is. But it's good news for some of the other guys on the roster as well. I just want Jake Johnson to be a guy that can be relied upon. And if he can even recreate what he did at Texas A&M, I think that's good enough. I mean, 24 catches, 235 yards, and 4 touchdowns, like I mentioned. Those are healthy numbers, especially the touchdown number. I mean, once every 6 catches, he's hauling in a touchdown. That's something that you can get behind from a tight end perspective. We don't think that this room has to be awesome because we think this wide receiver room is going to be really good, but you like to have somebody that is more than just a dump down threat every so often. And even that wasn't what he was a year ago, but you'd like to have somebody that can sort of attack the middle of the field a little bit for you. I don't know if that's necessarily what Jake Johnson is going to specify in. I think he's got that ability to be able to do that, but we'll just have to wait and see on that front.